And welcome back to the Constitutionals Podcast. I'm your host, Chad White. If you didn't know, this is a premier podcast for the website, cpluscomedy.com. Like I just said, it's a website. Go there. Oop, I'm back. I'm on autopilot when I do that. Welcome to episode 244.5. This is an interview I had with the wonderful Matt Braunger, baby. This is the second time I've spoken to him. In fact, I remember the first time I spoke to Matt. It was years ago when I think after the second year of the podcast, and he was promoting one of his latest album at the time. It's special at the time, and we chatted, and I had nowhere to do it, and I did it in my car, and I remember turning the engine off but turning on the lights, and it was very dark outside, and I was holding my phone and the recorder, or no, excuse me. I put those on the dash, and I was sitting so close to them, and I was just like, "Oh, hey, Mr. Matt, how you doing?" Just trying to talk to him. It was great. He gave me like 20 or 30 minutes, or I took 20 or 30 minutes. This time we are talking about his new special, Doug, which is out. You can purchase it on Moment, which is a great platform for specials for things digitally. That's not any writing that is on in front of me. That is me actually saying that because I enjoy it. I like the Moment. The Doughboys have their. This is the second time I'm talking about them. I just recorded the podcast prior to this, and this is the second time I talk about this or them and as a company or people or whatever the podcast. But they had live shows, periodically throughout the major part of the pandemic. That's a joke from How I Met Your Mother. Anyway, you can buy it on Moment right now, or if you want to do the audio album release and TVOD, that's available October 25th, and then AVOD as well as the 800-pound. I think it's Gorilla. Or because it says 800 PGM. But you can find that on the YouTube channel for the 800 PGM YouTube channel. So if you want to wait until December 1st, do that. If you want to buy it now, go to Moment. If you want a TVOD and the audio release, then go to wait on October 25th, which means you can probably listen to it on Spotify and whatnot. Braunger's a great comedian. He's a very nice guy, very funny. Although we did spend a lot of time talking about two different things. One, the how audiences don't know how to act coming back after the major part of the pandemic. People, please, just sit and watch a show. Like, you don't need to talk. You don't need to bother people. Nobody wants to hear your take. We're here to listen to this comedian, and that's it. That is from me, that is from my mouth, and that is from every other performer's mouth in the world. Stop it. Jesus. And we talked about the young woman who she was on stage and somebody threw a beer at her. But we had a whole discussion about that. And then we also talked about horror movies and everything. He's a big horror head. And did I just coin a new term? Anyway, Braunger's a big horror head. And I'm sure he'll appreciate that. So we also chatted about some of the recent projects that he's seen that are horror infused. But we're also talking about his new comedy special. I don't think I've ever said the name. It's Doug. It's called Doug. That's what it's called. Doug. Let's get it out of the way. Doug. Covers fatherhood and appreciation of hot dudes, his marriage to a pirate woman. His wife's name is Kara, and they also have a daughter, Rose. That is at the bottom of the press release. And other things. They talk about other things. It's great. It's a funny special. I listened to it. I listened to a lot of it, and and again, I will not recommend anything I don't like. So, and I will not talk to people I don't like. So here I am. I'm talking about Matt Braunger, and I'm recommending Doug. So check it out. If you want to follow Matt Braunger online, go to mattbraunger.com. Follow him on Twitter at Braunger, Braunger. Braunger. Jesus Christ, Chad. Follow him on Facebook, Matt Braunger. You can see a picture of his cute little girl with the scariest gnome in the world while she's watching Sesame Street. Sorry. Follow him on Instagram at Bronger and follow him on TikTok. We also talk about TikTok at Real Matt Bronger. We all, I know we talked about what else we talked about. He's got really well. He pays somebody to do this. He admitted, but he's got really well produced. What's it called? Videos on TikTok and Instagram. Like they're fantastically produced. It's so well done, and that's all we need. Any Hoosers, Bronger, Doug, we're about to get into it as we speak. The next voices you will hear are Chad and Matt Braunger. Here we go. How was you just got back from what? The where were you? Twin Cities or?
Yeah, I was at a place called Laugh Camp in St. Paul. It was
Okay.
great. It was
Wow.
great.
Okay, that's good. What was it? So this was was that you promoting Doug or was that
No,
you?
no, it was just plain old shows. So
Okay.
2 Friday, 2 Saturday. Yeah, it was
Wow.
just it's a great little club there that's relatively new. That's in St. Paul.
Okay.
Almost all the comedy typically goes on in Minneapolis of the two
Yeah.
cities. So it's kind of cool to be over on the other side of things. It was nice. It's a good spot.
Did you have good crowds out there?
Yeah, yeah, it was decent, especially because there's a at the time there was a comedy festival going on in Minneapolis that had a bunch of stuff, and it was one of those things I was having trouble moving the needle, and then then I found out that weekend. I'm like, oh, okay,
Yeah.
this business is so interesting. How I'll go, oh, why aren't they selling that well? I've been promoting this thing, and I'll find out there's another act that's similar to me, or
Hmm.
that we have a lot of the same fans. Not similar to me, we have a lot of the same fans, and they're bigger than I am, and I'm like, ugh, just dumb luck. It just happens sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, it's so interesting how now, especially now, you have to market yourself in such a way that not only should your fans know about it, but even like the potential new people that you have to find on TikTok or on
Right.
Instagram or however they find it. But I mean, yeah, but now the big thing is TikTok, and I see your Instagram is just full of these very well produced videos. But I think that takes a lot of effort in order to get that out there and promote yourself like that.
Yeah, and it's one of those things you kind of have to jump on the bus. You have to kind of get with the times. It was one of those things I was kind of bucking the trend for the longest time, where I was like, I just don't. I will say it is a lot of work, but I have someone else do it for me. Like that's just to be fair. I don't want it out there that I'm like, because I know people who do it themselves. Like Fahim Anwar does all his own social media stuff, and it's all amazing. So I will give him full credit in that regard. But you have to continuously put out something.
Mhm.
It doesn't all have to be slickly produced, and there are some of us that put out way, way, way more than others. But yeah, it is. It's unavoidable as far as I'm concerned, especially when you're just a working comic and not a massive name. Let's just
Yeah.
say.
Yeah, I it's well, we'll take, Gabriel Iglesias.
Mm-hmm.
He's one of the big, if not the biggest comedian in the world.
Yeah.
And I can only assume that yes, he has a team of people behind him just throwing all the small stuff out there, but it's you and a couple of other people, and you've got to choose, okay, well, this clip is gonna be perfect for this day, and this is like, oh, something happened today that I have in my act that from a couple of years ago that would work out, or something that I've used recently. It's tough. I completely understand how you have to be, stay on top of all of this.
Yeah, it's tricky, but it's good to. Thankfully, I can kind of set aside a couple bucks to pay someone to work with me on that, exactly, rather than kind of try, and I've tried to do it myself. I don't have that skill set
Right.
where I'm not, I'm not left brained enough, or whatever you want to call it, in terms of making the content look acceptable to the level that people want to look at it, for want of another term. You know.
Yeah, you're the person that tells the jokes, that comes up with the absurdist humor, and then you get it out there, and then someone else handles the that other stuff, the businessy
That
stuff.
is correct.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
What so how has it been, having this special? I know it's not I don't think the video's not out, right? Like you have to go to Moment and purchase it.
Yeah, yeah, it is it's out, but you basically have to buy a ticket, which is
Okay.
what Moment does. They make things into events. So I put my special on there. A couple comics have done it before me. There's some more comics doing it. And the thing that's cool about them is that they kind of the lion's share of all the stuff sold go to the artist, and
Okay.
I own this special, and still kind of covering costs on in terms of making it,
Mhm.
having had made it. So that's just where it lives right now, and I
Okay.
don't know where it'll be next. It won't be anywhere else anytime in the next week or two or three or four. But
Right.
if people want to see it now, that's kind of where it lives. So it's kind of like I'm just going to take it and put it where it goes. But yeah, it's available now. It's called Doug. So
Yes, and
yes.
I like Moment as a company. I was introduced to them uh, basically because of the pandemic, where a couple
Hmm.
of live shows were hosted on there, and
Cool.
they were handled really well. And so I do.
Great.
If you trust them, then I trust them as well. And I'm glad that people can support it in a way that you can get some of the money and recoup of the things that you put into it. So that's very good to hear.
Yeah, and it's one of those things I could see, the more I think about it, like, because, I have a 2-year-old, I'm in my 40s, I go out, but I don't, I love staying in too. And I think I could see myself finding things on Moment and be like, oh, I'll watch that concert from the comfort of my couch.
Yes.
I mean, one of the best times I remember, last couple of years was having hosting Couchella, where we watched Coachella from my couch,
Yeah.
and you can go to the YouTube pages and flip from stage to stage, and it's pretty fun. It's pretty cool. So anyway,
Yeah, no, I love that too. That and Bonnaroo, because that introduced me to so many people that
oh
I've never
yeah,
seen before. But
hmm
I could do it at home and not be sick and not get
right,
sick from everybody. And
yeah,
that was also that was great.
hmm
But Doug, you've been working on. I'm not calling you Doug. I'm calling you Matt.
yeah. I know. I didn't think you were.
But you've been working on. How long you been working on this? Because I did you have to? Were you going to shoot this in 2020 and then the
Yeah,
shutdown
and
happened? Okay.
yeah, and then everything locked down, and my wife had our kid, and I basically became a stay-at-home dad, and a lot of that material I threw away, and then kind of generated more, and I was talking with somebody about this recently, and they were like, "Well, why would you just throw it away?" And I was kind of like, "Well, I kind of just put it aside because I wasn't as in love with it as much anymore, but also I was tired of it." And there's a couple bits I've had every time I've done a special, and I think every other comic is like this too, that you're like, well, I have to kind of make myself love this one last time just to get it on tape, and then I can never do it again because I hate it. Nothing wrong with the joke. You've just done it so many times.
Right.
You've built it and carved it and polished it and shined it, and then you've shown it to people, and then you just want to take a rock to it and break it in half and never see it again because it's funny. I love Brian Regan, and he used to do a thing where he would do his whole act and go, "Hey, is there anything I didn't do?" And people would call out stuff, and I remember going, and I've done that once or twice, just to try it, but I don't really know how most of my old bits go because they're all
Right.
kind of convoluted stories, and I've kind of mentally blocked them a little
Mhm.
bit. So yeah, I definitely, in terms of how long it's been. I mean, I was ready to go in 2020, so some of that stuff is from 2019, and then recorded in 2021. So some of it's a year old, some of it's a couple months old, some of it's 2 years old.
Yes.
So yeah, yeah,
I think that's good. That's good that you can address that to yourself and go, I'm not really feeling this anymore. This joke, even if it's a good 5 minute chunk, and you can feel
mm.
confident and redevelop some more stuff, either coming from that or around it. Or I mean, that's always a good thing. What? All right. So you got the special out,
Yep.
and do you ever do you ever feel as though that some of the bits will never stand up to the test of time, or something that won't ever, like, if, like, okay, the audience here enjoyed it, but they are fans of me. Do you ever think that,
Right.
if I ever put this out, oh, this isn't going to fly well, or anything of that nature?
Yeah, always. There's always jokes that you really think are super fun and everything, but you can't find a way to make them land for one reason or another. That's always the case, and it's just an ever changing, constant personal evolution in terms of reconciling the stuff. Like most of the stuff, if you're a working comic that you think, oh, I really like this, someone will like it, but every once in a while there's that one that you just can't get people on board with, or you don't, someone else might sell it better, you don't know. Yeah, but
Yeah.
that's all the time for sure.
Yeah. Is it hard? Is it tough to, when you're getting rid of bits? Well, I'm not saying getting rid, but when you stop doing them, when you're done doing those jokes, to it's hard, later on to remember them, but is it hard to purge them? Because that's something that it's kind of like a safety blanket. You have those
Mm.
jokes, they're funny. I think of, like, but you also get sick of them. I think of, like, Hugh Jackman doing The Music Man, and I think, oh my God, he's got to do this for 6 months, and
Right.
he's not going to forget, in month 7, when he's done doing it, he's still going to be tap dancing at home. I'd hope, I think.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. For sure. But I mean, I think it just comes back to you can't really fake it live. You have to find a way to like it. You have to find something in it, you loved. I mean, it's like I did musicals in college, or excuse me, in high school, a little bit in college, but like I mostly did plays. And I remember just doing plays, not on the level of Broadway, but you
Mm.
have to, first of all, you're operating at an insanely high level that you somehow have to get used to, and also you have to find the joy in it, or if you have to tap into whatever makes it worth it for you. Like, this is a strange thing to mention, but I can always tell when I've when I've guested on a TV show and I meet someone in the cast who used to do Broadway.
Mm.
Specifically, young women.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's always young, not young, but like, let's say younger than 40 women, and here's the thing: they're in incredible shape. Like, you can see
Okay.
their arms are toned.
Yeah.
They're like, they almost look like Olympians. And I only say it singles out with the women because I'm just like, my God, look at those guns. Like, you don't have huge muscles, but like, you're in a specimen. Like, you look like you teach Pilates. Whereas men, it's just like, yeah, you see fit dudes all the time that are
Yeah.
leading men, that are acting, and stuff like that. But there's something about that where, and the reason why they're like that is because the physical stamina required to do musicals. I mean, I think probably Hugh Jackman probably had the same body he had in Wolverine as he had in Music Man, because
Yeah.
you're kicking and spinning around and all this crazy stuff. It just, you don't, it's not, I guess long story long, what I'm saying is, no matter what, people can tell when you're phoning it in.
Mm.
And it's like, especially now in this era of people, tweeting stuff out or blogging, or it'll be like, I was thinking about that, how like now people be like, oh, so and so forgot his line, and I was like, oh my God. Like, the pressure, because someone's seen that play or that musical, like dozens of times,
Yeah.
and they love it, and they don't want to see anything different.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so impressive. It's so
Yeah.
impressive.
I mean, the work that any performer puts in, to me, is just, and like you said, you can't fake that. You can't fake that. And it's amazing, because, yeah, it's when you go to a concert and somebody messes up their own verse, and then
Right.
there's two things they could either do. They could either acknowledge it and like laugh it off, or they could
Right.
just skip right over it. And
Sure.
I've never seen someone skip right over it, but I've seen the people acknowledge it and mess up, and then, continue on and try to give that tour de force performance. And I
Right.
mean, to bring it back to comedy, I mean,
Mhm.
it's if someone knows your joke, word for word. Brian Regan, yeah, if I can quote Pop Tart joke,
Yeah.
and he messes something up, I in my head I would be like, oh, he screwed this one up,
Uh-huh.
and it would suck, even to point that out to him.
And it happens. I mean, it happens all over the place. I mean, comedians luckily can kind of play it off for the most part and be like, "Oh, I do it differently now," or whatever, or I will, I'm just going to add this or add that. Like I had this thing over the past weekend where I had my second set on Friday. I had these two dudes that would not stop yelling stuff, and I tamped it down, tamped it down, tamped it down, tamped it down. Made fun of them in a good natured way. Finally, was just like, "Look, guys, you got to stop!" And the crowd's yelling at them.
Yeah.
People are turning around and going, "Shut the f up!" And I finally had to walk them. And it was one of those things. There's like, I felt like I handled it perfectly. I felt everyone told me that, but I didn't really reconcile with how it was going to kind of first. I got on stage the second night and I already had some stuff I was dealing with, and I had a real, I will say, like so to rough set. I mean, by the final third, I was getting them. People were having fun and stuff, but
Yeah.
it took me a long time to get my legs underneath me, and that I have not had that happen to me in a long time. And all I can think is I wasn't freaked out that anyone would yell something or anything like that, but it was just such a surreal experience having to go literally, because this place doesn't have security. They can't afford it.
Right.
It's a small venue. They're barely hanging on post-pandemic. This bartender had to go tap him on the shoulder and have him kind of push him out. And it was one of those things that it just not. And I had a great day. Went to farmers market, all that jazz. Wasn't even on my mind. But just when I got back on that stage, it was almost like this tiny degree of post-traumatic experience just tripped me. And it just kept tripping me, where I'd set up a joke and then forget where it was going and then have to kind of improvise. And it was just surreal and weird.
Yeah.
So it just taught me that you don't know. I mean, I was talking with someone about how Beanie Fieldstein, who was on the
Funny
she
guy.
told the story on a podcast how she was on the revival of Hello Dolly with Bette Midler, and talk about Broadway, like the huge stakes. And her co-star at one point, I guess he had diarrhea or something, or like had a sick stomach, and like didn't make it to the stage when they're both supposed to run together and start this dance. So she kind of just rocked back and forth, and the band just watched, and they're like, okay, when he comes out, we'll start. And the guy came out, and they did their dance. It's just shit that just happens.
Yeah.
And I'm drawing a strange correlation between my mental block and that, but it's just like it just does.
Yeah.
Like if you do it long enough, you can kind of roll with the punches, and you have to. That's live. That's what happens with anything live.
And you telling that story and relating it to Beanie's situation, it makes me think the audience needs to have a little bit more patience when it comes to a performer who is, I mean, because anything can happen, and a performer, we pay for the tickets, and we take the time off from our lives to enjoy this 2 to 3 hour thing. But I mean, when it comes down to it, that other person on the stage, or the other people on the stage, are human beings, and they do have days like this. And when some jerk offs are in the crowd screaming at you, yelling at you, or there was that young lady this past weekend who had a beer thrown at her, and then she chugged it. Like she was so up, like, Michelle Obama says,
so well.
We take the high road. Yeah. She did so perfectly, because I would have responded with anger, because, it's just ridiculous how it's, especially now coming out of the worst part of the pandemic, where people just don't know how to act, it seems. Yeah. And
there are more than not, and like I really felt a kinship with her, because she went through far worse than me, but I had two dudes who, I mean, I would have bet money they were less than 30. Would have bet good money that these guys were, two dudes who were roommates who kind of spent the weekend getting blackout drunk.
Right.
And turns out they were in their 50s. They were definitely blackout drunk. But yeah, that when I heard that, that just made me go, what is happening? Because even then, I mean, my cousin and his wife were in the front row,
Mhm.
and they were some of the people turning and kind of yelling at these guys. And like when I left, they were still in the bar, and then they finally got kicked out. The bartender came out. It's like, what are these guys doing here? Get them the
Yeah.
f out, you know. But it was one of those things where I feel like that sort of situation is what comedians can deal with really, really well, because we do have this deep well of, um, you know, we can find every reason inside ourselves to not do what we do and go, this is ridiculous. When someone stands up and says, this is ridiculous, you're like, you don't even know how ridiculous it is, you dumb piece of, like that. That's what makes us kind of, and like I snapped on these guys good naturedly and got everyone kind of laughing. I wanted them to laugh along, but they wouldn't.
Ugh.
And they had this idea of like, they were saying the bartender's like, oh, I remember when comedians could just handle anything, and the guy's like, he kicked you out, like, don't you understand? But hers was, I mean, that was that was violence.
Yeah.
This person threw something at a woman.
Yeah.
Like I've had stuff thrown at me, not a beer, nothing that would hurt, but so many comedians have had the beer projectile, and a lot of it, to your point, has been in the last 2 years, where people just you talk about one thing, typically who, and people throw stuff.
Yeah.
Because I won't make any comments about why that might be or anything, but it's I mean, proof's in the pudding. I don't think people make fun of him a lot, but I don't think anyone has thrown a beer in defense of Biden. I will bet good money on that.
Yeah, right, exactly.
That's Uncle Joe you're talking trash about. Like, I don't think that's happening. I really don't think that.
Like, and if they did, it'd be like a craft beer, like a locally brewed craft beer.
And they would throw it against the wall next to themselves. They would get more like glass and stuff. Like, I did that to make a point.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm not going to hurt you. Yeah.
And I'm sorry. Let me buy you a drink.
That was a good. I was Sierra Nevada, one of the last independent breweries. God.
It's, that reminds me. This is pre-pandemic, but I saw Jimmy Pardo here in Atlanta, and
nice.
A woman would not stop talking. And then now the latest one was I saw Mulaney here in Atlanta, maybe like 4 or 5 months ago, and it was a fairly big venue, and this person would not stop standing up and like, I mean, quite frankly, and I'm black, so I can say this. He was treating it like it was a Def Jam show, and he was standing up,
I know exactly what you mean.
He's like, go on, John, until eventually John had to, turn, and he said this like, he said in the most John Mulaney way, you're kind of pissing me off. And and then eventually those people were escorted out. But I mean, nobody was having fun. No, at that point, like everybody's trying to watch John, but the people in our section were just like, dude, you got to give it a rest.
It's hard. Yeah, it's just obliviousness. I mean, I've said this in my act. It's like people ask me, do I get hecklers? And you don't, not much. It's more someone that just isn't aware of how loud they're being by themselves. Mm-hmm. People are talking in the silent moments where you're setting the joke up, and they think it's just like, no, but I'm out. I'm allowed to do this. And if they had any clue of how, I have an expression I use called invisible drunk, where people are so drunk they don't realize how they look, and they're just like eating off other people's plates. It's like, hey, man. Like it's and I call it that because they don't. I remember, it's been a long time, but I remember having that feeling where you just feel like you're floating in a cloud, and that's what that person is. They're just, the gentleman you met who's standing up and yelling, and this person talking to Pardo is that it's this crushing lack of self-awareness. Sometimes it's just someone who's like, I paid and I get to do anything I want. It's kind of like people who go to like an independent restaurant and the person didn't bring them a fork and they 1 star. Yeah. It's like, well, what was wrong with the food or the service? Oh, nothing. But this one, it's like, oh, you're such a POS. Like that drives me crazy.
Yeah.
It's this level of entitlement, and whether it's alcohol induced or not, That's really what it is. It's just pure entitlement,
Yeah.
and you're ruining it for everyone. You know.
Exactly. I mean it's insane how but yeah, anyway, I guess we should continue talking about Doug.
Sure, whatever. I'm good
Just to,
talking about anything, man. Whatever you
yeah,
want to talk
yeah,
about.
me too. I just don't like, yeah, I go to a lot of concerts now, and every time I see people act that way, it's just it baffles me. It baffles me.
Yeah, yeah.
But I go, I go to concerts alone. So I'll like last week I saw Carly Rae Jepsen,
Oh
and
yeah.
I stood, at like basically by the front door, just waiting to go. And since I was there alone, I was watching everybody and how they interacted. And I had a mask on and everything, but it felt like I was an outsider. It felt like I was an alien,
Yeah.
just observing everybody. But Carly was great. She did a fantastic job, and she really played to that crowd.
And that it's awesome. A and B. I give you a lot of credit for going alone. I have a lot of people come see me by themselves, and I always say if I see them in the crowd, I'm like, hey, you by yourself? Are you here alone? And they're like, yeah. And I'm like, give him a hand. Give this guy a hand. I would say that, or give her a hand. Because I think that takes a lot of it. It takes a lot of guts, but I think it's fantastic. People don't think about how fantastic that is. I remember when I was a kid, I just started going to movies by myself when I was in high
Yeah.
school, and I loved it because I'm just like I can just get more popcorn if I want. I can move seats mid show. There's no one
Mhm.
around. It doesn't matter. I really loved that, and it's the same thing with I haven't been to a lot. I'll go to comedy shows alone, of course, but I haven't been to a lot. I needed to go to more concerts. If my wife can't go or is out of town or I can't get a friend to go. I remember there's times I was thinking about going that, but then no one can go with me, and so I don't go. But it's like, yeah, you have just as much fun,
Yeah.
and if anything, you'll increase your sensory awareness because
Yes.
no one's talking to you.
Yep.
So I give you a lot of credit for that. That's really cool.
Yeah, I love it. I love getting to a concert or to a show, and taking of course, my requisite picture, my one picture or so, or video or whatever,
Sure.
and enjoying the time to myself. I've spent money on one ticket instead of two, and it's
Yeah.
that money you save, you could put it towards a $14 hot dog or something, and you're just you're just enjoying yourself, and it's so fun. Like I love going to movies alone too, and like that's how I've seen a lot of comedy movies when they used to come out in theaters. That's what I saw.
Mm,
Like The
sure.
House. That's how I saw The House.
Oh
They came
yeah.
together, and it was a Saturday morning at 11 o'clock. Just pop in that theater, and you're the only person who wants to see this movie starring a bunch of all comedians, but it's fun. It's
Yeah.
great.
It's great. Oh, and I wish that the thought I had the other day was I wish because I had a really full afternoon but I had nothing in the morning, and I'm just like I wish there were more. I wish movies showed in the morning, like in movie
Yes.
theaters. I want to go and enjoy my coffee buzz and watch something fun.
Yes.
And it just nope, you can't because of course not. They can't justify it. It'd just be for me.
Exactly. Yeah, for the people who are like, I don't have a regular job, but I
Exactly.
can do whatever I want, and like at any point of the day. If
Yeah.
a movie theater opened at 10 a.m. and the first showing was at 10:05, I think
Oh,
that they would have, like, they wouldn't have a lot of people, but they would have a good contingency of people who are like, I'm a doctor and I'm never going to be able to see Jurassic World Dominion,
right,
and
exactly. Yeah, 'cause
and
I work nights,
yeah, I
or
work nights. Yeah.
my shift starts at like 2 p.m. or something. Exactly.
Yes, yes. That I yearn for the day that happens. That's
Me
what
too.
Quentin Tarantino owns a theater in LA, so he
Hmm.
should open up. He should open it up at 10 a.m. LA time.
Yeah, it's the Beverly Center. It's an incredible repertory theater, and he owns in my neighborhood the Vista because he bought it because it was going to get sold to build condos or something, and he bought it, and it's still my favorite theater in the world, and I can't wait till he brings it back. But like, yeah, that one, it's a single screen theater, but it's all Egyptian Art Deco on the inside, and the rows are about 7 feet apart, so you
Wow,
can sit there with your legs out, eating your popcorn, and someone can walk past you and sit in the same row and never. They just go around your feet. It's the
that
best.
is amazing. That's the
It's the
Vista.
best.
It's not open yet.
It closed down during the pandemic, and then they were going to do renovations, and then they were talking about they were going to sell the whole building since it's a
Oh.
real prime area of real estate. But then he bought it, which thank God, and it's because I've seen so much awesome stuff there, and yeah, it's great. So anyway,
What's the last show or movie that you watched that's had stuck with you?
oh, um, okay, two-part answer. In terms of like, holy crap, what a great movie! I would say Prey.
Oh yeah.
Uh, I really thought that because I'm a big Predator fan, and I really, it's one of those things where I was like, how are they going to make this work? And I think they really made it work. And it was a great story, and it just hit all these great notes where it was kind of, this. I loved how this woman was trying to be a warrior, and everyone was kind of like, why you're a woman? And it wasn't. There was hardly any of that guy screaming in her face, like, what are you doing? It was
Right.
more guys going, why? Which I thought was so like interesting and like it's way more human. Anyway, but like, and I loved the fight scenes and all that jazz. So it's like what a great complete action slash horror movie. But
Yes.
in terms of the last thing I saw that really I thought was kind of amazing for what it was a movie called Deadstream that I watched on Shudder. I'm a big horror movie guy, and it's a guy. I won't say deplatformed. I guess he was a guy. He was a YouTuber
Okay.
who all he does is stuff that scares him, but he doesn't care about what like what damage it causes, any of that stuff. He's just trying to get likes and trying to get subscriptions and stuff, and he gets his account locked, and then they let him out. But the whole thing is just him. You're watching his show,
Yeah.
and he's like, "I'm gonna lock myself into this haunted house, and I'm very scared of this kind of thing, but I'm gonna." And he has cameras set up all over the house, and it's the way it's written, the way it's done, is of course things start going horribly wrong.
Right.
It really is haunted by a really malevolent spirit, and so you'll see and people are watching it. So there's like a part where he's like, I feel like I'm less afraid, and then you'll see off to the side on the stream, someone's like, holy shit, bottom floor closet, and there's something in there moving, and he doesn't know, and he's still talking, and it's going up the stairs. You see the different cameras, like, and then so he has to take on this spirit, and he's kind of, the guy plays it as this guy is so annoying. And so I remember watching and going, I was like, I don't care what happens to this dude. He's so awful.
Right.
I hate him, But it has all these really cool twists where he's discovering like symbols in the house or whatever, and then someone will send a video and they're like, look, my grandmother knows that writing, and click the video, and then she'll be like, you need to get out of the house. That means la la la, shit like that. And it's
Oh my gosh.
so it just keeps going and keeps going. One of those things where I was just like, I loved how they kept the momentum going, and they never really ran out of ideas. Even though it's just a straight up horror movie, they really did it well. Like, it was one of those, and it's all this guy. Like, at one point, he has this girl this girl shows up with like a super fan and tries to help him, and he doesn't want to let her. And so there's another performer, an actor in the show. But yeah, I just watched this. That's fresh in my brain. So I
Okay.
just watched that while I was on the road this weekend, and I was so knocked out by how well they kind of took this low budget idea and made it work.
Yeah.
So
There's other movies like that on Shudder, so
mhm.
I think I'll check that one out too, because I love anything, like you said, low budget, that makes you focus on this one thing.
Yeah,
And that person can bring you in because the script is written in such a way where here are the scares, here's this person, and we're gonna have a good playground for this. It's
exactly,
crazy. I
exactly.
love that.
Yeah,
I love that type of stuff. Well, Matt, I think for now I got everything I need.
great,
Uh,
fantastic.
but I do want to say thank you for sitting down with me. I do appreciate this.
Of
This
course,
was
anytime.
the best interview I've done all year. And I've done a lot. I've done
I
a lot of
did.
interviews. You trust me? I got the biggest interviews in the world. Oh, speaking of Donald Trump, Jesus,
I did.
I
You
got
did
the
it.
best interviews in the world. But congratulations on Doug. Congratulations on the child, because before I did you did 2015 and
No,
getting
yeah, I
close.
was nowhere near
No,
there. Yeah,
not
yeah,
not
yeah.
even close. Not
Nope.
even close.
Nope. No.
But unless the child was in gestation for
No, thankfully. No.
that
Yeah.
long. But yeah, this has been fantastic, and I'll get this out to you, as soon as I can. And
Great.
yeah, this
And
has been
I'll
great.
put it everywhere. Thanks for taking the time to talk with me, Chad. I really
All
appreciate
right,
it.
cool. You have a wonderful rest of your week.
You too, buddy. Take care.
Bye.